October 3rd, 1947.
Our first broadcast that night was a Georgetown football game.
From WJLA's first broadcast until now.
Welcome to Community 7.
In the 80s, 7's best.
News 7 tonight. Paul Berry with 7 on your side.
A legacy of excellence for 75 years. This is a 7 News special. 75 years on your side.
What an incredible milestone. 7 News on the air for 75 years now. Thanks for joining us. I'm Allison Starling.
I'm Michelle Marsh.
I'm Dave Lucas.
I'm Jonathan Elias.
And I'm Melanie Hastings.
For months, we've scoured our archives looking through tapes, film, photos, and more.
It's an effort that has paid off, and you'll see it over the next hour.
We're going to highlight some of the most impactful stories, specials, and investigations from the past.
And we're going to visit with many familiar faces, people you'll remember from our 7 News family over the years. So let's begin by taking a journey through time with a look at the station's history.
October 3rd, 1947, a test pattern went up, and Channel 7 was on the air. WMAL, as it was known back then, was the 14th TV station in the country. First broadcast, a Georgetown football game. 2 days later, we carried a Redskins game. And the very first televised presidential address. The Evening Star newspaper already owned WMAL radio, and now they had a TV station. The next year, 1948, the station became an ABC affiliate. In 1949, some of the early shows included the President's Inauguration and UMD football. In 1951, Channel 7 built 3 studios, one on Connecticut Avenue, said to be the best of any in the D.C. market. Those early shows were a challenge just to get on the air. They included variety shows and quiz shows, which were very popular. News programs were added to the schedule in 1956. In the 50s, news crews used film cameras like this Bell & Howell 16mm. It wasn't until the late 1970s that videotape recording equipment became the standard. In 1961, the station covered the Cherry Blossom Festival for the first time.
This is General Hospital.
In 1963, the first soap opera appeared on ABC, and a 60s television favorite you can still watch today. Sports was a mainstay of local programming in the 60s. In addition to Redskins games, Channel 7 covered college sports. In 1965, the station transitioned to color TV. Some famous faces came through these halls: Howard K. Smith
From the District Building.
and Charlie Gibson in the late 60s and early 70s. In the politically turbulent year of 1968, Channel 7 was the only station in town to provide computerized election results on TV. In 1972, the station hired its first female news anchor, and the 6 p.m. news went to a full hour. The next major station event happened in 1974, when banker Joe Albritton bought WMAL-TV. He renamed the station WJLA after his own initials. On October 7, 1991, News Channel 8 launched as one of the first 24-hour cable news channels from studios in Springfield, Virginia. And 11 years later, in August of 2002, News Channel 8 merged with Channel 7 in a new office tower in Roslyn, Virginia. All operations were now digitized in a central computer. In August 2014, Sinclair Broadcast Group became the new owners of WJLA and renamed News Channel 8 to WJLA 24/7 News. In recent years, WJLA has branched out with more channels, including Comet, TBD, and Charge. And there's more programming, including shows like Government Matters, The National Desk, Town Halls, and Full Measure. There have been some changes to news gathering as well. Now anyone with a cell phone can share news content. Cell phone cameras have become so good, they're often used for live shots and TV video. The COVID pandemic in 2020 threw a curveball to 7 News operations. But we found a way to keep going. We sent our anchors home and set up in-home studios. As we navigate the post-COVID world and resulting economic challenges, one thing is clear: 7 News will continue to cover impactful stories for our viewers into the future. Proof that 7 News is on your side.
We have the privilege of being invited into your home every day. We also get to be part of the DMV community and the larger 7 News family full of talented journalists.
I recently sat down with a few of our longtime anchors, Paul Barry, Kathleen Matthews, and Tim Brandt, to discuss that special bond we share with you. It's a WJLA Hall of Fame gathering. Former anchors Kathleen Matthews and Paul Barry and sports director Tim Brandt. I'd love for each of you guys to say when you started at Channel 7 and how long you worked here. Tim?
Well, I started in 1978, and I was just out of whatever I was doing. I was a kid, and I was here 4 years, and I went to ABC Sports, and then I came back when Robert Albritton took over. His dad had bought the station, and he was the one that originally hired me. But the second time, Robert was trying to get a group of people back together, and it was fun. It's been a great time of my life. And he bought WMAL Television, and he says, "I want you to be my sports director." And I said, "I've never been on television before, only radio." He says, "Well, just do what you do on radio. You'll be great." So that was the start of it.
I came to Channel 7 right out of college, 1976. And I started as a writer and researcher on a brand new TV show called 7:30 Live. Paul Barry was the host of that show.
Kathleen was behind the scenes until 1982, when she was hired to be Paul's co-anchor at 5 p.m.
I also hosted a show called Working Woman, which was first nationally syndicated, then internationally syndicated.
And the legendary Paul Barry started at 7 News in 1972, and he made us on your side. This On Your Side brand is something you developed. And here we are decades later.
Still doing it.
Every promo has On Your Side in it. And do you remember why that came about and what you wanted to accomplish with it?
We were getting so many letters, Allison, from people who were having all kinds of difficulties. Put together a program that will work. And that's how we started to put together 7 on Your Side. I thought it was important to tell the story of whatever somebody might be suffering from or with, and related to the current audience, to the people watching, and that's what we did. And so the concept was to make it something that you could learn from.
You would go out on the street with Paul Barry, and every older woman, young person, they'd say, "Oh, it's Paul Barry," and they'd even imitate how he would sign off that franchise. How did you do it?
7 on Your Side.
Yes, this is Paul Barry, 7 on
Your Side. To this day, people come to me and say, "I'm glad you started that 7 on Your Side, because I told somebody if they didn't do what they were supposed to do, I was going to call."
Paul Barry, 7 on Your Side. He was all over the field.
Tim was a local football star and wanted to find a unique way to cover DC sports. Paul gave him great career advice.
He says, "Well, you're an athlete." He says, "Challenge everybody to challenge you to any sport." So we started Challenge Tim. And it was like Paul. You couldn't walk down the street with somebody yelling, "Hey, Challenge Tim."
By the way, he was a local football hero, too.
The beauty of our team was that we had regular people who were just like you out there listening, that said, "Hey, I'm you, you're me, let's do this and talk." You did everything you did.
I think the people who worked at the station really felt like a very small family. Absolutely. And this family felt so much part of the Washington community. And the community embraced us that way. And that's what 7 on Your Side really meant. It was, we are you, you are us, we are all part of one family, advocating for everybody.
It was all just one big happy family. And I think people felt that way.
And being part of a local station, you are experiencing what that area is experiencing. So when there is a snowstorm, you're also having a hard time, getting into work.
Looking back on your years here, what are your fondest memories?
The ability to make a difference, a positive difference in the lives of the people that we serve. Not only were we broadcasting to them, but we were able through our unit to touch these people. When people call you and say, "Thank you for saving me," or "helping my mom."
It's an awesome responsibility, that you and others here carry to this day, but you're really a role model, and it's such a blessing but also responsibility when you're on the air. People are looking up to you to tell them the truth, but they're also looking up to you to sort of be a guidepost as to what maybe they can accomplish in their careers.
Channel 7 was family, is family. I mean, when I see you, like today, I mean, we were just over your house not too long ago. I mean, it's that kind of relationship that carries through. And to me, it's where I started, it's where I ended, it's, you know, so it's family.
A place to go to. We all need a place where we can go and feel comfortable. And I think our audience feels comfortable when they come to Channel 7. It's not just a place out there, it is the place.
Yeah, I think it's an institution in a city like Washington. You know, we are there to tell people what they need to know to live better lives. And it certainly enriched my life being part of Channel 7.
You're watching a 7 News special. 75 years on your side.
They are literally legends on the streets of D.C. and here at 7 News. Sam Ford and Peggy Gilgannon. Sam has been our D.C. bureau chief for decades, and his longtime photographer, Peggy, was a pioneer. Our Jay Korf has their touching and hilarious story.
This takes it to 112.
7 News D.C. bureau chief Sam Ford has been a witness to life in Washington.
Pick it up with, what about the implications for the family of the young man?
For more than a generation.
First, there was a fight that caused the crowd to panic.
On this day, Sam reported on the shooting death of a 15-year-old boy, an all too familiar, heartbreaking narrative.
I remember there was one day we had 11 homicides in D.C. One single day.
Frankie's familiar with both ends of the gun, saying he ran from a hail of bullets in Southeast when another hustler tried to rob him.
Sam began his career at 7 News in the late 80s at the height of the crack epidemic, covering a city on edge.
On Cinco de Mayo, the 5th of May, rioters attacked D.C. police. At least one officer was stabbed, numerous police vehicles burned.
Ford did it all, reporting from the courthouse to the White House.
The president says he does not believe his security was jeopardized.
From the DMV to Africa.
They are still stunned about what happened last Friday.
While Sam is admired for his no-nonsense reporting style and adored for his affable personality.
We like each other, yeah, I mean, that helps, you know, yeah.
He's also synonymous for teaming up for 2 decades with a legend in her own right.
These are all mine? Well, a lot of them are.
Photojournalist Peggy Gilgannon, who retired back in 2016.
This looks like we were down by U Street, doesn't it?
Met us and Sam at the D.C. Bureau one night to reminisce. Like that time Peggy's camera wasn't operating quite right while they were in Canada.
It's the first time I ever heard you cuss.
In French?
It was in Canada. You were cussing in English.
Sam and Peggy were true trailblazers. Ford, an original founder of the National Association of Black Journalists. Gilgannon, a crackerjack photographer who smashed stereotypes and was beloved for always being a friend first.
I just wanted to prove that a male and a female can both do this job, and I don't have to dress like a male to be one. So, and I just wanted to, that was my statement. My political statement was, I'm going to wear a skirt.
And Peggy wrapped up her remarkable career with a Lifetime Achievement Award from the White House Press Photographers Association.
It's our city. It's, you know, it's where we live. You know, we have to tell people about what's going on.
As you can imagine, they cover just about every move of every mayor.
Therefore, tonight, I'm announcing that Marion Barry would not be a candidate for re-election for my 4th term.
And we also found out who late D.C. Mayor Marion Barry liked better.
It was a trip. I mean, we never knew what to,
I
liked him, though.
He didn't like me a lot of the time. But he loved Peggy.
Then there were the moments that touched us all.
Sam Ford, tell us what you can.
Well, Carol, as you can see, there's this huge cloud of smoke behind me, and that is the location of the Pentagon.
From the horrors of September 11th to a fall night several years later filled with joy for Barack Obama backers.
Once the news arrived of an Obama victory, a celebration that was large here became even larger.
They reported from 14th and U Streets.
This is amazing, incredible. We're watching history right here on the streets.
The very spot in 1968 where rage erupted after the assassination of Dr. King.
40 years ago, right? 40 years ago, this was where the riot started. And 40 years later, this is where this neighborhood is gathering to get the news of the first black man elected as president of the United States.
For all the seismic moments they captured, the work that meant the most to them happened behind the scenes.
Ballou is an amazing place.
For years, they chronicled the brilliant marching band at Ballou High, a D.C. school nestled in a neighborhood riddled by violence. They also helped teach a journalism class there. They say it's among the stories they're most proud of.
One of the things I try to do is not forget about people that are not powerful people. You know, I try to get that out there, you know, and, you know, tell everybody's story.
As serious as they were about chronicling news in the nation's capital, these two are as humble and hilarious as they come.
And while she was out covering a fire, her live truck caught on fire. And so you hear her like, oh my God! It was funny.
Well, somebody called the fire department. This kid came up to me and said, lady, your truck's on fire. I said, what are you talking about? And I just followed him. Oh, my truck's on fire.
I've had a lot of fun, you know, at Channel 7, covering stories, and I come up with something that I think is a great story, and generally somebody agrees, and off we go.
And we have had a glorious time watching you too.
Reporting live from Northwest Washington, Sam Ford, 7 News.
There have been a lot of different people from WJLA to bring sports into your home. For some, Channel 7 was just a stop along the way in their broadcasting careers. But for a few, their time at WJLA has been more career-defining. Scott Abraham explains.
The sports landscape in the Washington, D.C. area has changed a lot in 75 years. Teams have left and come back.
Baseball is back in Washington, D.C.
And even some of the team names have changed, some by choice, while others needed more prodding.
We embark on a new chapter as the Washington Commanders.
Like the teams we cover, the WJLA sports staff has changed a lot through the years.
I'm Tim Brandt, James Brown, Frank Herzog, running out reporting News 7 Sports.
I would say I was there during what I would call the heyday of covering sports in a city.
We had free reign. We could go do the kind of stories that were interesting stories, and we did them.
To me, it was just like waking up every day for Christmas. I mean, it was something I loved. People say, was it hard work? I said, I never thought of it as work.
And honestly, it is hard to call it work when you're covering those magical moments that can unite a city. In the last few years, the Mystics,
DC been rocking with us from the beginning.
Nationals.
This is something they can never take away from us. World champs, man. Unbelievable. I hope they're ready for us.
And Caps have all won titles. But WJLA was also there when Washington celebrated not just one or two, but 3 Super Bowl victories.
It is inexpressible how happy I am.
On the court, the then Washington Bullets won it all in '78, and the Georgetown Hoyas were crowned NCAA champs in '84.
Who needs an apology when we have the national champion?
And while the celebrations are great, the real joy comes from the journey, that championship chase.
The greatest time I ever had covering the teams in Washington, D.C. was every NCAA tournament taking that run with the Maryland Terrapins and Coach Gary Williams. And then finally being there the year that they win it all. It's still surreal to think about. They're NCAA champions, and we're like, oh my gosh, they did it.
Through the years, we have given you inside access to the teams and players.
Got to know the players really well, too.
How's your wife like living with a hog? Well, I figured it'd beat living with a donkey, so, you know, if you're going to be a farm animal, you might as well be a hog.
They'd make fun of me because I got cut and they're still there, but that made it fun.
From Hog Heaven, Tim Brandt, News 7 Sports.
Tim, we'll send you the check.
We've also had our share of specials, programs designed to tell stories that go beyond the scoreboard.
I was scared to death to approach him about doing a show. I don't know why, but he was just one of those super people, you know? And I finally approached him and he said, yeah, that might be fun.
What goes around comes around. This is the type of game the Redskins would have won last year when they were going 14-2.
Let's see what Rigo does. He walks in the door, what's he gonna do? You better be able to react.
Yes, sports figures like Rigo, Unseld, Ovi, and Zim will help shape DC sports. but it's the fans who truly define the sports experience.
People unite around sports. We can all cheer for the same team, yet leave that arena not necessarily agreeing with one another, but at the same time doing high fives and everything else.
The fans were the key element in everything I did and everything the teams did. And the fans were remarkably loyal, and I still appreciate them, the ones who are left.
And for 17 years, we brought you the region's only local golf news program, Capital Golf Weekly. We shared all the big moments from the U.S. Opens at Congressional to highlights from the PGA Tour in our area. We had interviews with regional players and special guests, and we even took you along to trips to Scotland and Ireland. And we sure had a lot of fun doing it.
It's fair to say that 9/11, the sniper shootings, and the January 6th Capitol riots are among the most powerful stories we've reported on these last 75 years.
Jay Korf has more on the significance of covering those events through the eyes of our very own Dave Lucas and former reporter Julie Parker.
This is the WJLA 24/7 studio.
Coming out to camera 3. Here we go in 5, 4, 3, 2. Mike, Dave. Fade up. Cue.
Great to have you with us on a steamy back-to-work Monday.
For 33 years, Dave Lucas has shepherded us through the emotional pendulum of daily news.
Stand by, FX1, and take.
And the hard thing then is to put it all in some sort of perspective. What's important? What's just, wow, gee, did you see this the other day? And then we'll move on. Back-to-school alarm clocks rang early this morning.
Renowned for his steady demeanor and encyclopedic intellect, Lucas recalls 3 seismic stories that shaped not only the nation and this region, but also his career.
This was in our backyard. This was us.
This is a traffic camera in the Washington area. That is the Pentagon in the center of your screen right there.
And it wasn't just a picture on a screen, that these were people, unlikely people, that if we didn't know, we know somebody who knew those people. And that's what made it so very real all of a sudden.
Well, guys, I think you have something updated on the Taliban.
Julia, an interesting story out of Kabul, Afghanistan.
Lucas and former 7 News reporter Julie Parker co-anchored on that horrific day. In fact, it was her first time on set.
You're experiencing history and then being told you need to get on the anchor desk.
It's a Boeing 727 crashed into the other tower at the World Trade Center.
You cannot believe this sight. That is the World Trade Center. Apparently the South Tower just absolutely falling to the ground.
A year later, the unthinkable happened again when snipers invaded the DMV.
It was terrifying.
Random assassinations that paralyzed the region. Julie Parker filed our first live report.
Right now, we're outside the Mobile station where less than 4 hours ago, a man was shot and killed.
They weren't sure what was going on, but shots were being fired, and it was incredibly atypical in Montgomery County.
And the spree wasn't done. At 8:34 this morning, a woman sitting near the Leisure World post office on a bench was hit and killed.
But suddenly you started connecting these dots. And then the police were saying, there's some common denominators here. And that's when it became very real for everybody. People were afraid to buy gas. It freaked this whole place out, understandably.
Dave and Julie are also forever linked by the January 6th attack on the U.S. Capitol.
This wasn't just, we're mad as hell and we're not going to take it anymore. This was something far beyond that and far more sinister. It's a day unlike any others, and you're right in the middle of it. What's going on right now?
While Lucas tried to make sense of the rage unfolding before him, Parker had moved on from 7 News to run a communications firm.
The absolute most gratifying client I've had to date is the United States Capitol Police. I still get choked up.
She helped the U.S. Capitol Police with messaging following the riot.
To be able to help them, and for the country to understand what they went through, that is important to me.
For Julie Parker, the station's 75th anniversary reminds her why she dedicated years of her life to being on your side.
There was something special about our newsroom at WJLA, and we knew how lucky we were in the moment.
Stand by router 10 with CG3 and 1. Keita Ortiz is next.
Thank you.
As for Dave Lucas,
President is meeting with Kentucky's Governor Andy Beshear.
he marvels at all we've witnessed and all we've endured these last 75 years.
Amazing things have happened. For 30 plus years, it's been really nice to have a front row seat. I appreciate that. I'm grateful for it every day.
Now, weather is one thing, of course, that impacts all of us. All you need is a trusted group of people to deliver important weather information at every hour of the day. And we have been so lucky here at WJLA to work with the very best.
We have seen our share of big weather events over the past 75 years. From blizzards and heavy snow to flooding rain and tornadoes, 7 News has been there through it all. And while the general weather patterns haven't changed much over the last 75 years, the way 7 News has delivered your weather information has. And quite significantly. From Louis Allen, who was the first meteorologist to appear on TV here in the Washington, D.C. market, to Fred Wise, who spent nearly 26 years here at Channel 7.
And a little bit of shower activity way down here.
And, of course, Doug Hill, a D.C. staple for more than 30 years, who played a crucial role in helping move 7 News weather into the digital age.
Well, I'm just thankful this was not a Category 4 or 5. It's bad enough as a 2.
Technology has certainly come a long way in 75 years. Louis Allen started the cartoonish drawing of a weather map, which he called the Woodle, short for Weather Doodle.
And then the time that Fred Weiss was on the air in the early 80s, computer graphics were starting to make some big changes. You'd see weather data over live video, but drawing the fronts on a map was still the primary way of explaining the weather.
The graphics and some faces may have changed, but our dedication hasn't, like during the 2012 derecho that slammed the DMV with wind gusts upwards of 80 miles per hour. I remember hearing the booms and seeing flashes as transformers blew across the area, not to mention the thunder and lightning. It was nonstop.
Or, of course, the blizzard of 2016 that dropped 17.8 inches of snow at Reagan National Airport, just down the road from here in Roslyn. All the roads behind us, they were shut down for a number of days. Some areas in the outlying suburbs, 3.5 feet of snow. 7 News was all over it. We were on the air for 50 hours straight.
Well, 19 years ago, we were on this same spot on the rooftop here in Roslyn as we were waiting the arrival of what would be Tropical Storm Isabel. Made landfall in North Carolina as a hurricane, but would be very impactful here with big intense winds, 71 miles per hour reported at the National Academy of Sciences downtown. Storm surge of 6 to 8 feet on the western Potomac and 6 to 12 inches of rain locally. In fact, over 2 million people across the DMV were in the dark because of that storm.
Fast forward now to 2022, where we can explain the weather using the augmented reality graphics, these 3D animations. We can also use our color-enhanced radar to dive right down into a storm and show you exactly where it is, the threat it has, and where it's going. Our high-resolution Futurecast can pinpoint the storms days in advance, and now it's possible to do all of this from our own homes through the use of streaming equipment, social media, and, of course, our phones. So while a lot has changed in 75 years, the mission and goal of the Channel 7 Weather Department looks exactly the same, and that is keeping you and your family safe.
The relationship between the reporter and photographer is a special one. It's truly a team effort in the field to get the interviews, write the story, and edit it, all under the pressure of deadline. Our Maryland Bureau Chief Brad Bell and longtime photographer John Mann made TV magic together for decades.
Retired photojournalist John Mann and reporter Brad Bell have spent most of their careers together at 7 News. An inseparable duo. If ever apart at work, this question would often follow.
Hey, where's John? Where's Brad and John? Where's John and Brad? So we had a news director who decided we were going to create bureaus. One bureau would focus on Virginia, one would focus on the District of Columbia, and one would focus on Maryland. I would be the Maryland guy.
We said when it happened, we'll do it for 6 months.
That was in 1998. They stuck together, chasing some of the biggest stories of their careers over the next 20 years.
Pfiesteria has been found on the Chesapeake Bay.
From environmental reports along the Eastern Shore to flying with the Blue Angels. No matter where the story went, Brad was there and John captured the footage that viewers would remember, giving the audience more than just the nuts and bolts of a story.
Of course, not everyone hates acorns. They're a
Coverage of every hurricane season spanning 2 decades.
Yesterday, all these benches were thrown all over the boardwalk.
Many stories, leaving them with strong memories, like the D.C. sniper case.
Again, one shot, one victim with no reason, no answers, no suspect.
But for the community, it was like 6 weeks of being eternally scared to walk out of your house.
And we didn't know if these guys were going to show up again. We didn't know if they were going to open fire on us. So there was fear.
A front row to history-making events while serving our community. John and Brad call it their dream job.
Getting the job at Channel 7 was a big thing for me. I kissed the ground that Channel 7 sits on.
Both of you, in some ways, are the bridge between those who started Channel 7 and those who are presently here now.
That's right. When I got to Channel 7, it was an honor for me to get to know the likes of Jim Clark, John Harder, Ed Turney, Paul Berry, Renee Poussin, people that I had seen on TV for years.
So 30 years ago, what was the reputation of the station? What were they known for?
We were 7 on your side. We were 7 on your side, and Paul Berry, created that brand with his energy and his work. We were the station, and we remain the station to whom people can turn for help. And John Harder would put one hand out the window and one hand out the roof and stop the car without his hand on the steering wheel. And everybody who watched Channel 7 back then will know exactly what I'm talking about.
And you shot many of those segments.
Many.
So many stories, so many memories. A bond between colleagues that runs deep.
You work all day, every day, in the same car, in the same place, with the same person all the time. You're closer to them than anybody else.
So you are family.
We 100%
Absolutely.
are family.
One of the things of which we are most proud is our signature 7 on Your Side brand. All of us here at 7 News have been deeply committed for decades to serving the DMV and getting results for you, our viewers. As Allison mentioned earlier, this is the brainchild of our longtime former anchor Paul Berry, whom you welcomed into your homes for more than 25 years. On Your Side is our promise to the community.
We never put a story on the air that we didn't explain how we did it, why we did it, okay? And there was always that sense of, yeah, we're making a positive difference in the lives of our viewers. And we did. And we did.
And 7 on Your Side is still at the core of what we do here every day. It's the driving force behind every news story we put on the air.
If 75 years of television has taught us one thing, it's that telling stories that matter means giving you the tools to inform your choices, alert you to danger, and keep your family and your wallet a little safer.
Senior investigative reporter Lisa Fletcher looks at how decades of being on your side has led our investigative teams to stories that change the conversation locally and across the country.
From the nation's capital, WJLA-TV Channel 7.
Whether it's reporting on dangerous products,
it is an unseen danger. You can't see it or feel it or smell it.
Demanding answers.
You deliberately didn't allow 7 News to ask a question.
Or identifying hidden dangers in our food and our communities.
When you put that cell telephone up to your head, you're putting an energy transmitter right next to your brain.
The 7 News I-Team has made it its decades-long mission to expose what some prefer to keep hidden.
In the dark depths of this storage tank, a powerful chemical overcame 3 men and poisoned them to death.
Like dangerous chemicals improperly stored near communities.
But what Virginia officials didn't know was that even after the deaths, Arlington County was keeping 5,000 gallons of the very same chemical in the Public Works Department garage near thousands of homes and a Shirlington shopping center.
We've exposed money-making schemes like this one with children as the victims.
She's holding his nose shut to get his mouth open.
That's not acceptable. I think they can do this because their parents are not present.
Our shocking series of reports on kids' dental clinics profiting from unnecessary treatments led to a criminal and federal investigation and one of the most prestigious awards in the industry, the DuPont.
Mandatory testing would save almost all of those. Almost all.
We demanded answers when we learned that mothers weren't all being screened for a preventable disease, disabling and killing 10,000 babies a year.
As scary as all this sounds, chances are you've never even heard of Group B strep. I didn't, even though I'm the parent of 2 small girls. So like any concerned parent, I wondered why. And the reasons I was told simply didn't add up.
We found trains moving through the DMV with defective equipment,
Bad brakes, loose bolts, leaking gaskets,
putting communities at risk.
An I-team investigation shows mistakes were made. Key evidence was overlooked.
Chemical dump sites under neighborhoods that we discovered were once some of the largest Army chemical testing sites in the world.
Can you try to count backwards from 20 to 10?
And flagrant abuse of the system, caught on our hidden cameras as people convicted of drunk driving got behind the wheel over and over again.
Over a 4-month period, we investigated hundreds of drunk driving cases and found a system plagued with delaying tactics, plea bargains to lesser charges, and cases that simply vanished in the paperwork. But what surprised us most was what we found outside the courtroom.
And while some flouted the law, other risks, like those we've uncovered to your privacy, were not so obvious.
Wearable devices like Fitbits are helping millions get healthy.
That's the time we've been out walking.
But how those steps might be shared in court
This is the same as the black box data you would get on a car or a truck or an airplane.
might stop you in your tracks.
Our goal has always been to dig until we find the answers you need.
Do consumers have the information they need to make safe choices about pet food?
They have no information. A consumer has to become a private detective to learn what's really in their food.
Our months-long investigation that discovered the euthanasia drug pentobarbital in some of the most popular pet foods led to a nationwide recall of more than 100 million cans of dog food and a multi-year federal investigation.
And this is why Ms. Bush called 7 on Your Side call for action. $200,000 later, this is what she's left with.
Perhaps no member of any 7 on Your Side team is more recognizable than troubleshooter Horace Holmes.
We caught up with Vini after the meeting. So you're promising to finish this job? Yes.
A household name for decades, he brought countless stories to the DMV community.
I just don't know where the $2,400 went.
That's when they called 7 on Your Side.
Often famously getting money back for viewers who'd been scammed, and showing you how everyday actions like something as simple as carelessly tossing away a boarding pass could make you a target.
So now we're in the account. What's there? When you applied, you gave your name, address, phone number, cell phone number, and email address, more than enough for a thief to steal your identity.
Every generation of the 7 News I-Team has built itself on those who came before them, a legacy that continues as we continue to commit to bringing you stories that make a difference and truly matter.
In 1975, the Albritton era began in Washington. Texas banker Joe Albritton bought the Washington Star newspaper, and with it came several TV stations. In 1977, we officially became WJLA, Albritton's initials. I sat down with his son Robert, who says the magic behind 7 News has stayed the same all these years.
It's people you trust. You know, the stories are essentially the same. The difference is who do you trust and what's the skill in their ability to tell that story. If you can assemble a collection of folks that a community says, I know them, I trust them, I want to welcome them into my home, into what's a very personal experience for a lot of people, you can work miracles out of that.
The Albrittons owned WJLA for 38 years.
When Channel 7 went on the air in 1947, the big attraction was entertainment brought right to your living room. But it also brought the day's events, news to the nation's capital. Look back now at 75 years of covering the nation's most important place. Since there's been a 7, there's been news. Back in 1959, this is how then WMAL-TV told newspaper readers about their nighttime newscasts. 3 years later, 7 News expanded its early newscast to an hour, revolutionary at the time. And check out what they called news wagons and the first-generation Skytrack chopper. 60 years later, this is the same idea, but with updated technology.
Preserve, protect, and defend.
And since we began 75 years ago, 7 News has shared this bit of local and national history 21 times. This was 1997, when Bill Clinton took the presidential oath of office.
Well, I think journalism in Washington is different really than any other city in the world, because what's national is local and what's local is national.
Over 3/4 of a century, we have covered it all, triumph and tragedy.
Other towns might have the occasional big event takes place. In Washington, D.C., there's a big event every day.
And Fred Ryan has a unique perspective on journalism in the capital city. At the White House, he was Ronald Reagan's chief of staff for 6 years. After that, he was vice chairman of Allbritton Communications, the company that owns 7 News. And today, he's publisher and CEO of the Washington Post.
People who make the decisions that shape our country are consuming their news on outlets like WJLA and the Washington Post. So it gives you a special obligation, but also a chance, I think, to really do some great journalistic work.
And for 75 years, 7 News has covered not just the events, but we've provided close-up views of the people behind them. 2 important and long-lasting ways we did that were Capitol Sunday and Inside Washington. They were weekly interview programs and a who's who of D.C. power players.
It has to be a struggle for the hearts and minds of the people.
And we've got to move from a system where you're going to an emergency room from a stomachache to where you're getting the health care you need when you need it.
And they expect now the television coverage to be as smooth as a movie that has been written 6 years in advance, finally polished, and took a year to shoot.
And as times changed, so did how we reported D.C. news. First, and near and dear to my heart, News Channel 8 signed on in 1991 as one of the nation's first 24-hour local TV news organizations. And then in 2007, Politico was started as a digital companion to our broadcast and cable news.
So our goal is always to make sure that as much as possible we can talk to voters directly.
WJLA has been, I believe, one of the television outlets that's been in the forefront of innovation. It launched the most successful 24-hour news channel in America, right out of the company itself that ran the ABC affiliate, WJLA. It also launched Politico, a very unique site covering politics that allowed us to use the strength of WJLA's journalism and then add to it with some specialists focused on politics, and as a result, Politico was born.
A longtime employee is celebrating his 35th anniversary with 7 News. Jerry Fritz came on board working for Allbritton Communications in 1987 as a corporate attorney, armed with experience working with the FCC. He provides great perspective on the many buildings the station has been based in throughout the community.
WJLA has had several homes. It started out at 4461 Connecticut Avenue. It's an old building, had this ice skating rink on it. And in the late 80s, it moved to the Intelsat building.
That was on Tilden Street in Northwest. Channel 7 stayed there for 15 years before moving to Arlington's Roslyn neighborhood in October of 2002.
You're watching a 7 News special. 75 years on your side.
He's among the most award-winning photojournalists in station history, and she is among the most respected DMV journalists of her time.
Gail Pennybacher and Marty Doan covered the biggest stories of the last generation for 7 News on your side. Jay Korf has more on this extraordinary team.
To enter the FBI Academy of Quantico for instruction, you're considered among the best in law enforcement.
We are going to be able to talk for the next 2 hours about this event, how they responded.
To teach here, you've reached the pinnacle.
You do not have time for that in a crisis.
The instructor of this college-level course on communication strategies is a familiar face to 7 News viewers.
You know, I started my career on a typewriter, and I ended up on Twitter.
They gave chase and ended up in the National Zoo.
For nearly 3 decades, Gail Pennybacher hit the streets for 7 News on your side.
The waivers will dry up as the drought of '99 continues. You know, then my first day at Channel 7 was the day the Challenger exploded in 1986.
Liftoff of the 25th Space Shuttle mission, and it has cleared the tower.
She was a reporter's reporter, fiercely competitive, unapologetically objective, and deeply compassionate.
That's my DNA, is to be a journalist.
This specific kind of tactical training used here may be extended to patrol officers.
Gail was counted on to tell the most important stories of her time.
I went to the Persian Gulf and was there when the war started.
She's also the first to admit TV news gathering is tough without a great teammate. So we surprised her during this interview with a visit from her longtime work partner, recently retired 7 News photojournalist Marty Doan.
You guys are in charge of the words, and we're in charge of the images. And you know, they gotta mix.
We didn't quibble, we didn't argue, we didn't fight. We just got the job done, and we laughed a lot.
While Gail's superpower is creating enlightening stories with grace and empathy, Marty never missed a beat for 27 years. He ranks among the most award-winning photographers in station history.
I never, ever had to worry about, is he getting the shot? Are you rolling? Because he was.
So many of the moments that they shared impacted them personally. Gail's hometown was not far from Columbine High School in Colorado.
When Marty and I got sent out to go to Columbine, that was not only such a huge event on its face, but it was where I grew up. It's my idyllic childhood.
And they were a key cog in our 9/11 coverage.
Gail, the mayor's declared a state of emergency. What exactly does that entail?
That entails the fact that the city is in a state of readiness.
And some of the sniper shootings unfolded near Gail's home.
Those first shootings, those first series of shootings were in my neighborhood, in my community in Montgomery County at the time.
In fact, we haven't had a storm that has done this kind of damage since the ice storm of January.
As for the station's 75th anniversary, Gail and Marty say it was the honor of their careers to represent 7 News on your side, a brand recognized even a world away while reporting from the Middle East.
We got our Channel 7 logo, the mic flag, and all that stuff, and we're just walking the streets, and people would come up and they go, "Oh, 7 on your side. You know, we'll talk to you." You know, and so it was, people knew us.
Only one is on your side.
Worldwide.
Gail and Marty loved the story. Even more, the people they met along the way. For them, being on your side wasn't a brand. It was about being there for your community then and now.
I have always maintained, and he and I have had a lot of conversations about this, that we were there for really the golden age of television news.
A big milestone in Channel 7's history came in October of 1991.
That is when News Channel 8, now known as WJLA 24/7 News, was launched. Let's take a look back at the early days of the 24-hour cable news operation.
In 1991, John Hillis brought his cable news background to start up News Channel 8.
It was a lot of moving pieces and very little time and not much room for error. And then we had to staff up.
That meant hiring 130 people from all over the country.
It was sort of a leap of faith for many of us.
It was a huge leap of faith for everybody.
News Channel 8 went live on October 7th, 1991, providing local news around the clock. Weather was big news.
I remember all the snowstorms that we covered.
Local politics was News Channel 8's bread and butter.
Clearly, they're going to play to their strengths, and schools and education are the big issue there.
We covered local elections.
Let's take you back to the museum now for more of our election night forum.
And presidential inaugurations.
The 1993 inauguration, hundreds of hours of live television.
News Channel 8 was the first station in town with live traffic cameras.
The late Dave Willingham was our guy in the mornings.
We took our newscasts on the road, visiting towns and cities all over the region.
I'm Dave Lucas. We're coming to you this time from the Newseum in Arlington.
Trying to introduce the Washington metropolitan region to itself.
Another News Channel 8 innovation, zoned newscasts.
Good evening. Welcome to the Virginia Report.
And there were countless special projects, including a year-long look back at the turmoil of 1968.
1968 was the end of the age of innocence.
Plus lighter fare, like the National Christmas Tree lighting, parades, and balls.
They're painting the town red, white, and blue. Inaugural bashes are underway all across the city tonight.
News Channel 8 had a brief partnership with UPN 20, providing them with a local 10 p.m. newscast.
And that's it for UPN 20 News at 10.
And after 10 years at the Springfield location, a big development. In 2002, News Channel 8 merged with sister station WJLA.
The idea of getting more coverage and better footage for both Channel 7 and Channel 8 made sense.
So what are you most proud of?
I'm immensely proud that you and Dave Lucas are still there as originals all these years. I'm so proud of the people that we've developed. I'd like to think we had some role in helping them build their talent.
What is the legacy of this station?
A means of good, honest information for the viewer that's available to them around the clock.
An impactful part of the 75-year history of WJLA is our long-running Working Woman segment. Beginning in the early 90s, when many women were breaking barriers in the workplace, 7 News was there to tell their stories. And we met many impressive women along the way. Beginning in 1991, WJLA anchor Kathleen Matthews hosted the segment and show called Working Woman. She featured hundreds of women from all walks of life.
Which was wonderful because in the 90s, women were just really breaking into so many careers. And so we had a chance to profile and showcase some of the challenges, but also the amazing women that you saw starting their careers.
Through the years and the many hairstyles, Matthews sat down with women who were excelling in every line of work you can think of.
When we first met Hillary Clinton in January of 1992,
including household names like Hillary Clinton back when her husband Bill was running for president. Matthews gave us a look into the future when she asked Clinton if she would ever campaign for herself.
I'd be a terrific governor. I'd be a terrific president. I don't have any doubt about any of that.
The list of working women also included Marilyn Quayle, wife of Vice President Dan Quayle, who talked about her work fighting breast cancer.
it's an important thing to do.
Through syndication, Working Woman reached households all over the country and internationally through Voice of America.
Moving into overseas markets like the Netherlands represents the growth opportunity.
The team even took the show overseas on a trade mission, showcasing women in positions of power, like President Clinton's assistant, Alexis Hermit.
We have not been players on the global scene, but luckily as a part of this trade mission, now we are.
The Working Woman franchise was never afraid to tackle topics that were rarely discussed, like mental health for women in the 90s.
There's been a true revolution in medicine that now should be translated into the care that women receive from their physicians. Part of it is the woman's responsibility. She needs to be asking for what she needs in terms of help.
And on the lighter side, I'm Deborah Norville. Thank you for watching. A sit down with TV host Deborah Norville behind the scenes of Inside Edition.
I practice 7 hours a day, 5 days a week.
A young up-and-coming gymnast who would one day be a 3-time Olympian, Dominique Dawes.
My goal is just to always believe in myself and just to make sure that I enjoy what I'm doing.
The founder of Mattel Toys and creator of the iconic Barbie doll, Ruth Handler.
As far as I'm concerned, there are no politics to Barbie except the millions of little girls that love her.
The original celebrity chef, Julia Child, and actress Dixie Carter from the wildly popular series Designing Women, who discussed the thrill of being on stage.
I get to make them laugh, these faces, and then I see the occasional tear.
Thank you for joining us for this ABC 7 News Working Woman special. I'm Allison Starling. Then I took over the franchise in 2006, adding more outstanding names to the roster of working women.
I never thought Wonder Woman was really a sex symbol at all. Women liked her as much as men.
Celebrities next door like Wonder Woman, Linda Carter, and TV chef Carla Hall.
They're like,
my God, Carla Hall's in my neighborhood. This is my neighborhood too.
In 2011, we talked to the brand new Prince George's County State's Attorney, Angela Alsobrooks, the youngest person and first woman to hold the position.
I wanted to do something I would love, something that would make me get out of bed in the morning, something that would help people, that would be impactful, that would mean something.
Former D.C. Police Chief Kathy Lanier, as she left us to be the head of security for the NFL.
I think this does move the needle a little bit for women.
And big names in science, sports, and philanthropy.
Yes, this is what we should be doing. This is what I should be doing. This is the difference and the impact that we want to have in the community.
It's been a privilege for 7 News to give a voice to the impressive women working together to make our community a better place.
And finally, here's a behind-the-scenes look at how we made this special. We spent months searching through our archives to properly chronicle 75 years of coverage for you.
Jay Korf documented the key steps of this extensive process.
To bring to life 75 years of broadcasting,
The weather continues to make news this afternoon.
the team at 7 News On Your Side spent months working on this Diamond Jubilee special. We scoured our archives, pulling dozens of boxes from long-term storage.
Let's see what we have here.
To guide you closer to the people you've trusted all these years.
JLA TV.
Some Gail Pennybacher.
And to share in the memories that shaped our lives for generations.
What good does it do to win the battle? In the process, I lose my soul.
We also uncovered old photographs, film canisters, and documents from decades gone by. Color Lab transformed our 16mm film through a multi-stage process into a digital format for all to see.
This is the News 7 update with
And everything fell into place when we started connecting with the people you counted on.
And tonight, Paul Berry with 7 on your side.
The nation's capital is virtually shut down tonight.
The streets are empty if you don't count the abandoned automobiles.
So whether you've been with us for all 75 years or you recently started watching, we will always be
News 7.
News 7, on the scene and on your side.
You can watch this special again, as well as find more photos, extended interviews, and fun clips from the past, all on our website. Just go to WJLA.com/75 years.
It has been an honor to be a part of the WJLA family over the years.
We are so grateful to you, our viewers, and our community.
We appreciate you tuning in every day.
And we want to thank you for watching this special as well.
And from all of us here at 7 News, cheers to 75 years. And remember, as Paul Berry always says, 7 is on your side.